As you all know, not too long ago, Pokemon Legends ZA finally released after 1.5 years of anticipation. Ever since the announcement of this game, I've been in a callous mood for the first time since the launch of X and Y. It's most obvious to see with my 2 Friend Safari videos that I did, but I gotta be honest, despite this being the 3rd X and Y related video on my channel, I'm not that big of a fan of these games. They scream missed potential to me, and because of that, I'm trying to get the most out of these games so that I can find some new appreciation for them. So I started looking for some of the more niche areas of features throughout these games. And not too long after, I found something. On Route 7, there's probably a feature that very few people have interacted with, and I'm not talking about the Deka or the Battle Chateau that are also on this road. No, I'm talking about the berry fields that can be found right next to Campfire Town. This is a location that most players only ever visit once, and then never again. Basically, you're being tasked by the field's owner to help him grow berries. He then proceeds to give you 5 Oran and Pecha berries, as well as the Sprinklotat watering can. For most players, this is all they're ever gonna do in this place, forcing the owner into poverty. Desperate, he's going to sell these fields to a rich Cantonian businessman, who eventually is going to develop this land and turn it into a parking lot. Truly a grim fate. But before that happens, I noticed that various Pokemon can be encountered using the growing berry trees. These Pokemon are considered pests, and getting rid of them is a high priority. But then I started thinking, what if I use these pests to train a Pokemon to level 100? I decided to think about the idea for a while and came to the conclusion that it could make for an interesting challenge.
Here's how I'll torture you, David.
But before I could start with this process, I did some more research and found something that, as far as I'm aware, almost nobody's talking about. You see, in Lumio City, close to the Pokeball Boutique, you can find the Juice Shop, a specialty shop focused on selling various juices to the player. These juices can have different effects on your Pokemon, ranging from increasing friendship to increasing various EV stats and even resetting them to 0. However, there are 2 juices that the player has access to that make this challenge a completely different one. The Rare Soda and the Ultra Rare Soda are 2 beverages that can be bought that permanently increase a Pokemon's level. You can already see where this is going. The Rare Soda can increase up to 3 levels at once, while the Ultra Rare variety increases your levels by 4 to 5. These juices are fairly pricey at 10,000 Pokédong per level. Normally, to unlock these juices, you need 90 style points for the Rare Soda and 255 style points for the Ultra Rare Soda, respectively. In case you don't know, style points are exclusive to X and Y and give you various perks throughout Lumio City, ranging from discounts in restaurants or the Stone Emporium, new Firth Road trims, or in this case, unlocking new juices. These points can be increased by doing various activities in Lumios, like buying a meal, riding a go-goat, or taking a cab. Anyway, this isn't the only way of getting access to these juices. There's also an alternative method. By speaking to the lady behind the counter, you can find out that you also have the opportunity to just use your own ingredients. For the Rare Soda, you need a Lansat Berry and a Staff Berry, while for the Ultra Rare one, you need an Enigma Berry and a Roselli Berry. Due to the fact that the Enigma Berry is event exclusive and can't be obtained normally, we're not going to be using the Ultra Rare Soda for this challenge and we'll only focus on the Rare Soda. Basically, to summarize what we're going to do in this challenge, we will grow berries and turn them into juice to grind a Pokemon to level 100. But since this wouldn't be much of a challenge on its own, I also decided I have to grow every single berry that's available in Gen 6 at least once for a sort of harvest sticks, let's call it. Let me tell you, getting access to these berries was a journey and a half. But before we get to that point, I need to tell you how the whole berry growing mechanic even works. You see, growing berries takes a set amount of real time. This depends on the kind of berry you're growing, but it starts at 24 hours and can go up to 120 hours for a single berry tree to be fully grown. Before you plant a berry, you can use mulch on that spot with various different effects. These vary from a yield increase per berry tree to an increased chance of berry mutations. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Now you can plant the berry. Once you did, you can water the spot, and with that you are done for the time being. However, throughout those hours, your berry tree can have different things affect them, like weeds growing around them needing to be watered, or a pest Pokemon making the tree their home. You as the berry farmer have to meet all of the berry's needs. So if there are weeds, remove them. If the tree needs water, water it. And if there's a Pokemon in there, defeat it. Fairly self-explanatory stuff. Now here's the part that Game Freak hid from the players. Whenever you get rid of a pest, weed, or water your tree, a hidden value increases. This value partially influences the yield for your berry tree. For example, you have an orange tree. The minimum amount of berries that you can get are 4, but can go up to 15. If you want to get those 15 berries, you either need to use the Amaze mulch or the Rich mulch. You also need to water them as much as possible, as well as course, remove as many weeds as you can. Lastly, and most importantly, is that you have to get rid of the pests, since these increase your hidden yield value way more than any of the other things. At the end, the amount of times you remove the pest, weed, or water the tree will be multiplied by their respective value for each task. For example, if you have 3 pests in your orange tree, then these 3 pests get multiplied by the yield value of 3 for pests, giving you a yield value of 9. The higher the value, the more berries you get. This once again also depends on the berry. With all of that now said, we can finally talk about mutations. Basically, certain berries are not available in Kalos, unless you get them as a mutation. This works by having 2 very specific berry trees right next to each other, and if you're lucky, one of these trees will have a mutated berry. These berries can now be planted as any other berry without having to breed them again. With all of this now said, we can finally get into the gameplay. I decided to get rid of any berry that I had in my bag, to start off with a clean slate, the only exception being the Enigma berry. I don't quite remember how I got my hands on one, but I don't want to get rid of it either, which is why I banned the ultra rare soda. I'm gonna turn it into a berry tree, but that's about it. In this game, finding these berries can be a bit of a task. Instead of just finding them on the ground or in any specific location like in a lot of the other games, you instead have to find them in wild battles. In X and Y there's a mechanic called natural objects. Basically in the wild battles you can occasionally find various different objects in the background, those being different kinds of rocks, snow, grass, or in our case, berry trees. These objects can also be interacted with if you use the right attacks, which leads to you getting an item. For berry trees, we have access to 3 different attacks that can be used to interact with them, those being Air Cutter, Blizzard, and Twister. If you use one of these attacks during the battle, the tree in the background will drop a berry corresponding to the color of berry the tree is carrying. There are 6 different kinds of berry trees all across the game, with a total of 32 different berries. You can already tell that we got our work cut out for us, and this is before we even begin with anything major. Also, before I forget it, while we're mostly only going to be using these in-battle trees, there are also a few other ways of obtaining berries, which I'm going to be showing you, especially with the first few berries. Okay, seriously, enough yapping, we need to go find some berries now. For the first one, we go to Coumarine City. You may or may not remember that there are a couple of stands selling different stuff. One of these stands is unoccupied, so you'd assume that you can't do anything with it, but if you interact with that stand, you'll read a note saying that its vendor is currently away, so you can just grab a berry that they left as a gift. This stand can have multiple kinds of berries, but you can only grab one per day. In our case, it was the cherry berry. Next, we went to Campfire Town. In a house, there is a guy asking to see a Pokemon with a specific type. If you show him what he wants, he gives you one of many berries. In my case, he gave me a Chesto berry. Now, it's time to go to various routes to interact with some overworld berry trees. Yeah, those exist too. The first one we go to is on Route 12 to find an Asper berry. These overworld trees, while nice for specific berries, might as well be considered one-time pickups, since they only respawn after 7 real-world days. Now obviously I only need one of every berry anyway, but still 7 days is too long. On Route 15 we find the next tree, which gives us a leper berry. On Route 5 the oran berry, and Route 7 the person berry. Route 16 houses a lumberry for our greedy little hands, and Route 18 a wakam berry. What we can also find on Route 18 is a house with a very interesting character. His name is Inver, the only NPC in this game that uses the newly introduced battle gimmick of inverse battles. These battles throw the well-known type chart out the window and instead inverse it, meaning that moves that would normally be super effective, so water on a fire mon for example, become resisted by them. Equally, moves that would normally be resisted, so water on a grass mon, become super effective now. But why am I telling you this? Well, you see, if you battle with Inver, he rewards you with one of many berries. Inver has a point system, and if you have enough points during this battle, different kinds of berries will be given out. I'm not going to go into specifics, but to make a long story short, he gave me a citrus berry, another one that we still needed. Now we go on to Route 21, where we can find a figgy berry tree. With all of these berries now collected, we already reach a point where we have to use the natural object to collect the rest of the berries. The first location we go to collect them is Route 5, so let's do some battles. No, 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 no. There we go. During this battle, the following berries were found: the Rust Berry, Aguaf Berry, Rindo Berry, Kibia Berry, Tango Berry, and Babiri Berry, all for the green trees. Also found were the Wiki Berry, Payapa Berry, Kasip Berry, and Kolba Berry. With all of these berries, we're now at a total of 20 different berries. Seems like we're making some steady progress. For the next set of berries, we go to 2 different routes, Route 9 and 19, both containing the yellow berry trees. Thanks to those, we obtained the Ayapa Berry, Shuka Berry, Chati Berry, and Chillon berry, totaling 24 berries. The next location we go to is Frost Cavern, but the outside of it, which is also called Frost Cavern. There's also a second location we can go to, Route 17. Across these two locations we can find blue berry trees while fishing or while riding the Mamoswine. Thanks to them we obtained the Pasho, Yachi and Koba berries. Lastly, on our journey are Route 8 and Shallow City. While fishing we can find pink and red berry trees, which give us the Oka, Chopul and Haban berries for the red trees, while the pink trees give us Pecha and Mago berries. With all of these berries now collected, we reach the 32 berry maximum and officially have every berry that can be obtained from the natural object trees. That said, we are still missing one more berry that can only be found on the spooky Route 14, being the Roseli berry. With all of these berries now obtained, we can start focusing on planting them so that we can officially add them to our harvest stacks. Since we have 36 spots to plant our berries, our entire collection can easily be planted at once, occupying 34 out of these plantable spots. 33 of our regular berries that we went out of our way to get, and then our Enigma berry just for the completion's sake. With all of these berries now planted, it's now time to wait. Later the same day, July 2nd, 2025, I opened up the game again to see if anything had happened on my berry farm. Some of the berries had already grown into trees, however, they didn't bear any fruits just yet. Most other berries, however, were only just sprouting. What I also noticed is that all the berries had weeds growing around them, so I decided to pluck them all to up my yield value. Aside from this, nothing else really happened. At this point, I wasn't entirely sure what I'm gonna do about the Lancet and Staff berries, since both of them are the ones that I actually need and can't obtain without having to do something very specific. But I'm going to talk about this soon enough. On the 3rd of July 2025, I noticed that a few of the berry trees now had blooming flowers. However, none of the berries were done just yet, so I once again just plucked the weeds. However, instead of just turning off my game again, I started my journey for the Lancet and Staff berries. You see, to obtain both of those berries, you need to visit the Battle Maison in Kilot City or the Battle Resort in Oras. There you need to get a 100 and 200 consecutive win streak in any of the super battle categories. Once you did, you can talk to this little girl who's going to give you these rare berries. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, not really. This is a battle facility after all, so you need a little bit more than just shiny hunting brain rot. Yes! Instead of trying to rack my brain by spending time to create my own battle facility team, I just googled how win Battle Maison good and fast. Smile. Very quickly, I found something promising. A Reddit thread where someone in the replies said that a team they created made it quite easy. Now, if I can find the post, I'm gonna put it on screen. Anyway, to break it down... Hey yo! Hit it, blue boy! Hey! 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 Oh shit! Ah! But anyway, the team I've chosen consists of Multiscale Dragonite, Mega Kangaskhan and Suicune, all with specific natures and EVs of course. Here's the specifics. Basically, during the session I only focused on setting up the basics for this team, like catching a Marvel Scale Dragonair in the Friend Safari, very easy thanks to some of my previous ventures in these games, and also catching a Kangaskhan, which was not very easy as it's only available in the Glittering Cave at a very generous 5%, and every time you want a new shot at one of the encounters, you have to leave the cave completely for them to respawn, since they can actually be depleted. It took me forever to find it, but eventually I did, and with that I ended that session. However, I wasn't done for that day. Later in the evening, I checked on my berries again, and this time several of them were ready to be picked. These being the Cherry, Chesto, Ross, Asper, Persim, Pecha, Oran, Lepa, Figgy, Wiki, Mago, Aguaf, and Ayapapa berries, bringing our harvest sticks to a very nice 13 different kinds of berries. This session was mostly spent teaching my Pokemon specific moves, and since I wasn't sure if affection mechanics are available in the battle facilities, I just grinded them in that aspect too. And to make it short, no, those mechanics don't work. It would be way too busted if they did. The next day, a whole new wave of berries finally grew. Unfortunately, I forgot to record a few of them. In all, I got the following berries: the Lum, Citrus, Oka, Pasho, Wakan, Rindo, Yachi, Shopple, Kibia, Juka, Koba, Payapa, Tanga, Chadi, Kasib, Haban, Kulbur, Babiri, Chillon, and Roseli berries, with an additional Tamato berry thanks to a successful mutation, putting us at a total of 34 different berries for our harvest sticks. With these berries now collected, it's time to focus on the mutation berries. To optimize our chances, I decided to make a few surprise mulches, which boost our chance of getting a mutation. The berries that we're missing are the Pomic, Kelpsie, Quallot, Hondu, Grappa, Lychee, Ganlon, Salak, Pitaya, Apricot, Key, and Maranga berries, which means we got our hands full. Immediately after, I hopped onto Alpha Sapphire to continue the quest of getting my Battle Maison team. In this case, the team member would be Suicune, so I caught a Lugia in Sea Marvel to get access to the legendary beasts, but for some reason they never spawned. Never caught them on this file either, so I have no clue what's going on. I tried all kinds of stuff, but nothing worked, so I put it off for a few days. On the 6th of July 2025, I came back with a vengeance, and a different copy on which the Suicune surprisingly worked. So basically I spent the entire session just resetting the Suicune to get the right nature. Took in total 45 minutes, nothing too crazy, but funnily enough it was the final reset I was willing to do before putting it off for another day, and on that reset I got the needed nature. First and last reset magic is real, guys. On the 7th, the berries that I planted a few days earlier were done, and thanks to the surprise mulch we got every single mutation berry that we needed from that batch. Those being the Pomic, Kelpsie, Quallot, Hondu, and Grappa berries, for a total of 39 different berries in the dex. But all of these berries got immediately replanted to make way for the second layer of mutations. The deeper we go down the mutation path, the longer we have to wait for them to grow. This time these berries are going to take 48 hours to show if they bring us a mutation. On the 8th, I did the usual tending to the plants, but also 2 other trees that I had planted finished growing. Those being the Tomato berry, which I did for completion's sake, and the single Enigma berry that I had. This one took 120 hours to grow, but sadly we still only got 1 berry in return. But hey, a berry is a berry. Add it to the dex! The 9th was only notable in the fact that I traded over my Suicune from Auras into X. I also did the affection training, but we already went over how that doesn't do anything for me. On the 10th, a new batch of berries was done. We once again got all the mutations that we needed for this layer. Those being the Lychee, Ganlon, Salak, Pitaya, and Apricot berries, which immediately after got replanted again. This time next to each other for the final set of mutations. These are going to take 96 hours of real time to grow, so it's gonna take a bit. With these berries now harvested, we reached a total of 46 different berries. We're really getting up there now. What was also interesting is the fact that when I decided to leave the fields, a small cutscene happened in which a scientist showed up and asked if I was the owner and was talking about mutations. She's the NPC that tells you which combinations you have to use to get certain mutations. I'm gonna be honest, I was surprised that the new NPC even shows up at all. Literally have never even seen anyone mention this character. I think she shows up after your first mutation and only if you want to leave. Later, still on the 10th and even on the 11th, I spent my sessions trying to grind up my win streak in the Battle Maison. Fun fact, turns out I never unlocked the super battles apparently, so I had to do the regular battles that cap out at I think 20, so that was fun to do. Don't think I recorded that, but it did happen. Anyway, I got to win 68, and then tragedy struck. I got defeated, meaning my streak was gone, and this wasn't the only case. Throughout the next few days, I got defeated multiple times. I don't know what was happening, but the game was like, here, have fun battling a team that counters yours almost completely. So I decided to give up on it for a while and focus on some other things. And those other things being just another 14 berries that weren't counted for the dex previously. All these berries are from Auras and are completely unobtainable in Kalos. Call it the National Harvest Dex. All of these berries are Pokeblock berries, so it makes sense that they don't exist in Kalos, but they still exist in the code of the game, so if you trade them over, you just can have them in your inventory and even plant them. So you know what I did. The first berry of the Horn excursion is the Spellon berry, which we get from the Berry Master's wife on Route 123. She's going to ask you for a phrase, and if you answer correctly, she'll give you one of a few available Pokeblock berries. If you answer incorrectly, you'll get one of the common berries. Next is a Blueberry on Route 115, which we can easily get from one of the berry trees. More interestingly, however, is the one we can obtain in Fortree City. For this one, we need to catch a Spinder and trade it with this child for a Skitty, which is holding the Megast berry. Route 117 and Route 121 have our next 2 berries, those being the Nanap and Pinap berries. Time for another random NPC to give us our next berry. In Sootopolis City, there's this little girl who gives us 2 berries a day, and a few of those are some that we still need. In this case, we got the raspberry from her. Honestly, I think we need more of these characters that just give you a berry or something like that for no reason. Imagine finding a hidden area with a single NPC and then you hear this.
No, look, another unfortunate soul. What happened to you? Gambling debt. I was there once. Well, let me tell you my story.
I don't really care.
You see, I was this big business guy. Bunch of money. One day, I blah, 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 blah. And then league officials very conveniently found 6 pounds of X speed in my car, which is why I'm here. Anyway, kid, thanks for listening. You earned it.
I think that'd be so cool. Next up is the Wepair berry, which we find on a different section of Route 115. With all of these berries now collected, we have finally run out of relatively convenient ones to obtain, and are now forced to do the thing that I've been dreading the most, aside from the whole Battle Maison grind, and that being Pokemon contests. Yes, the last few berries that we're still missing can, for the most part, only be obtained from fans when winning the Super and Hyper challenges for category, which means they are completely random, so have fun grinding that. Luckily, since Sheen, a hidden stat in the original games that caps out your Pokeblock intake permanently after a set amount of those being eaten, is not an issue in ORAS anymore. This time you can gorge yourself on so many Pokemon blocks that even using the worst ones you can eventually max out all your stats, which is what I did, so that I have the best chance of winning the contests. But anyway, I'm not going to go into detail regarding the contests themselves, because that's a rabbit hole that several other people have already jumped in. I'm simply only going to list all the berries that I got during my many attempts. The first one being the Blue berry, followed by the Rabuta and Corn berries in the same batch as the Blue berry. Later, during one of the contests, I competed against Licia, which and I gotta be honest, didn't realize I did beat her pretty easily too. And well, due to me winning, I got a cutscene where I got kidnapped by her and forced into a CIA black site torture chamber. After finding out that I'm just that guy, she gave me a Lucarionite, which was a nice bonus. The next berry that I obtained was the Duran berry, and a few contests after that, I obtained the Poultry berry. With only 2 berries left to obtain, I was cruising through the contests and finally got the Whatmel, as well as the Nomel berries that I was still missing. Both of them in the same batch too. With all of these berries now obtained, it's time to trade them over. I immediately planted all of these newly acquired berries, meaning we basically have gotten all of them, aside from the Lancet and Staff berries. But what if I told you I lied? What if there were 4 more berries that I'm missing to complete my harvest stacks? Well, sadly, it's not an if, it's an F for fuck. These 4 berries are completely unobtainable, and 3 of them more so than a lot of other stuff. Let's start with this still sorta kinda obtainable one if you're willing to inject an event mon into your save. That being the Missile berry. That's just a Mario and Luigi bean. The Missile berry, while fairly easily obtainable nowadays, used to be an event-exclusive berry until Sword and Shield's Crown Tundra. The only way to obtain one in Gen 6 was through a single distribution. That being the Pokemon 20th Anniversary Mythical Shaman in the ancient year of 2016.
Why am I still
only getting the Mickleberry through events?
As the name suggests, the event distribution gave out a Shaman, but the special part was that it was holding a Missile berry, the only distribution to feature it. Since most, if not all, modern event mon are archived, you can easily inject the Wonder card into your game. But the next 3 berries weren't so lucky. I'm talking about the Custap, the Boca, and Roa berries. No, I'm not making an epic and cool montage. What for? There's literally nothing to make a montage out of. These berries have functionally been extinct since 2016. Whenever the Gen 6 part of the Pokemon Global Link was shut down, they were only obtainable as Pokemileage Club rewards, a component of the Gen 6 games where you could spend Pokemiles to purchase various items. There were also a few minigames associated with the Mileage Club that you could unlock after getting a set amount of medals in X and Y. And you're probably thinking, there were medals in X and Y? Well, the answer is kind of. They weren't in the game, but they were part of the Global Link website. You could connect your games with the website via the GameSync function, which is also how you got the items from the website. But anyway, the Global Link website as a whole is a massive part of the franchise's history that can't just be condensed into a few words. Maybe if the fan recreation efforts have paid off and an operational version once again exists someday, then I'm going to talk about it properly. But to go back a few steps, once you have obtained 20 medals, you unlock the Pokédoll Grabber minigame, which would give you various berries as a reward. The berries you'd get depend on the level of difficulty you were playing. For our purposes, level 1 and 2 had the Custap, Jaboka, and Roa berries, which then could be transferred to Gen 6. And that was only way to obtain these berries. So since I kinda don't wanna leave my harvest stacks for short, I had to pull some strings. I put a message behind the informational board in the Lumia's train station, telling my contact to come to our usual spot. Obviously I'm not gonna show my actual location, but not long after I put out this message, my contact finally arrived. After some bartering, we came to a deal. He hooked me up with the shaman holding a mistleberry and also gave me the other 3 berries, while I gave him some Jotonian stable mulch, which I came across my travels. Well, it is a fertilizer, so I have my suspicion on what he's gonna do with it. Anyway, with these last 4 berries now acquired, it's time to plant them all. With these now growing, it's time to work on the staff and lancet berries again. Still using the same team from last time, but this time actually being locked in instead of just winging it. While it still took a bit to get into a proper flow, it didn't take too long, and at some point I even had a pretty good win streak going. I quickly reached battle 50, then battle 75, even battle 100, which I luckily also won, meaning that I finally got a Lancer berry from this little girl. But of course I wasn't done. I reached battle 125, battle 150, battle 175, and then finally I got to battle 200, which I thankfully also beat. Getting to battle 200 took me several days, and there were a handful of times where I nearly lost, but taking my time and considering my options eventually got me the win, meaning that I finally got the very last berry for the collection, the staff berry. Both the lancet and staff berries can finally be planted, and these 2 berries will lead us to dozens more that will eventually be used for the rare soda. Yeah, remember that whole aspect of the video? We, technically speaking, haven't actually begun the rise to 100 yet. Oops. Anyway, during the time it took me to get the Lancet and Staffberry, all of the Hoenn and Event berries have finally grown, which means that they can finally be added to the harvest stacks. Those, of course, being the Spellon, Bluk, Magus, Nanab, Pinup, Raz, Repair, Baloo, Rebuta, Korn, Durin, Palm Tree, Watmo, Normal, Missile, Custab, Jaboka, and Rostab berries, bringing us to a total of 64 different berries. Hey guys, editing me here. I was about to go on this whole spiel about me missing a berry somewhere during the editing process. As you notice, I said 64 berries just now. Ignore that, it's 65 berries. We are on track, I didn't miss anything. But yeah, all that was left to do was wait for the Lancet and Staffberry to grow. And then, over several weeks, cultivate them to the point that I have at least 33 of each. And that's what I did over the next 2 or 3 weeks, just checking in once a day if the trees need water or weeds removed, you know, that type of stuff. And then eventually I reached the magical number of 33 Lancet and 33 Staffberries, meaning I officially had enough to start the rise to 100. But I didn't have a Pokemon to condemn to the strange fate of drinking 33 sodas, so I was thinking about which one would be best suited for this, and then it hit me like a brick piece. Who has a somewhat well-known association to berry juices? Exactly, Steve Jobs. Nah, it's Shuckle. A Pokemon that has the ability to create berry juice whenever it is given a berry. Well, in Gen 2 at least. So it only made sense to turn this into a full circle kinda moment. And since I can't have anything easy in life, I also decided to shiny hunt it. Which means that I have to breed it, since there are no wild level 1 Shuckles. I quickly caught a Shuckle in a friend safari, threw it in there with one of my Masuda Ditto, and then grinded up several boxes of eggs. I then went to Lumia City and rode across the Centrico Plaza, since I only have to press one direction thanks to the automatically changing camera, and so I hunted for quite a while without getting the shiny. I then put the hunt and the challenge as a whole to the side for 4 months. I was mostly working on my Lorelei video, which I needed to get out desperately. In early December, after finally uploading the Lorelei video, I found some time to come back to this challenge. It was the 5th of December, only 5 days away from the Legends ZA Mega Dimensions DLC. I was grinding like crazy, just hoping that one of the eggs is gonna be shiny, and then eventually this happened. Oh, yes! Shiny Shuckle, holy! I was not expecting that. What? Well, guess we found a victim. Shiny Shuckle just hatched. I don't know how many eggs it took. Probably around like 600 or 700 or something. So probably above odds. But I don't care. Look at how good it looks. It's awesome. That is awesome. I really loved it. I've always wanted a shiny Shuckle. Yes. Finally we got our victim, if you will, for the berries for the berry juice. Also, currently watching the ZA movie that Absol posted like literally just like 20-30 minutes ago. It couldn't have been better. And you know where I am currently? That's right, Lumio City. We being Lumio's pilled right now. Alright, once this whole hatching sequence is over, I'm gonna go grab the shackle and finally get to level 100. Well, probably. I read something that, you know, it's capped to once a day, but we shall see. Alright, let's see if I can get more than one juice. Staffberry. And the Lancet berry. Mix a mix. Mish and mash. Okay. Shuckle drinks the special juice. The level of Shuckle grew by 3 levels. It's neat. Oh, interesting. Okay, you can only get like one juice per day. Is that a magic carp repurposed as like a tea kettle of sorts? That's crazy. But yeah, Shuckle got its first 3 levels. Now, since the juices are based on real time and this video is already long enough, I decided to call in a quick favor. Hey, Electrode, hey, remember when I saved you all these years ago in Johto? Yeah. Could you do me a favor real quick and go in there and use Explosion? Hey guys, look! The mixing station is completely fine, and so is the employee. Let's ask her for 32 free refills. Level 10. Level 20. Level 30. Level 40. Level 50. Level 60. Level 70. Level 80. Level 90. And now, the last juice of the challenge. Shuckle currently at level 97, and now officially level 100. Filled up on juice. This challenge was stupid, but I mean, hey, it beats whatever I planned initially, so can't believe it. A level 100 Shuckle, only using berries, sort of. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this challenge, this video. This isn't gonna be the only race to 100. I already did the Lorelei one, but that was more or less like a sort of pilot with like as a side mode, more or less. This was the first actual one. I have like 2 or 3 more ideas for interesting level 100 challenges. But yeah, and there we go, level 100 with a shiny Shuckle, only using berries that we ourselves have grown and cultivated. I know this was a strange idea, but I hope I was able to make it interesting. I don't know why the video became this long. I guess there was just a lot to explain. But yeah, check out my other videos, like the Lorelei one that I've been talking about. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. The next video might be even nicher than this one, but honestly I think it's par for the course for this channel these days. So yeah, no clue when it's out, but it's pretty far into production, so it shouldn't take too long, I think. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I see you guys later.